know what the crime is on that open records request, but it should be big. It should be along the line of voting.
Absolutely.
It should be bigger than drug dealing, because I still am not affected by orange bottle pharmaceuticals being black marketed as much as I am by Scott Letney and Corey Mason withholding records and with these other violations of election laws. I would like to see Scott, setting up bail.
So who was sitting in this chair last week? Were you over here, George?
I think it was empty.
No, I put it over there.
Oh, nobody sat on it?
No, you're okay.
We both just moved a little. We moved into these spaces here.
Nobody sat on your seat, Don. Nobody wanted to.
Yeah, a little scary.
Well, welcome back to Talking Racine. Good to see you back. Good to be back. I was gone last week. George, you were here last week, and you're back again this week.
Yeah, I'm building back better.
Jim, what are you doing?
I'm just here. I'm just going to take a ride along.
He's just hanging here. And then Dr. Jorgen. Oh, man, we got a good one here today. It's when is a crime is the question of the day. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a writ of mandamus that was filed in the city of Racine. And
Supreme Court time.
Yeah, and that's, we're taping now, but that's today.
We aren't here right now. We are on our way to Madison.
You're up in Madison. And you're going up too, huh?
Yep. Oh yeah, we hope to have a show the following week, at least a little bit of clips of what happened, and we'll maybe do a little. We'll see. We don't know what to expect, and hopefully it's good.
It's a big adventure going to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But anyway, let's go back to when is a crime a crime. Now you got a little bit of a video here today.
I do, and this is
Justice Gableman.
Justice Gableman. He's doing the investigation on election mishaps, and he's talking about the WEC, the Wisconsin Election Commission, and I think last week or a couple weeks ago we talked about how the sheriff, and I'm sure most of our viewers anyway, the sheriff recommended charges the WEC on election infirmed people or people who were incapacitated from voting at Ridgewood Healthcare in Racine, and he recommended charges. Of course, we had said, well, there's nothing going to happen, and nothing happened.
I think we share an opinion on the WEC here, don't we? It's just like a lousy, corrupt organization.
It's a lousy, or it probably got corruption too. I don't know how much of it is intentional and how much is just
incompetence.
Yeah, just pure incompetence.
Yeah.
But it's bad. I mean, their worst offenses lay in the area where there's a law that they okay the violation of. In other words, the law says you have to do this, and they said, "No, you don't really have to do that," which is a violation of the law.
Hey, we're in charge here.
Exactly.
And when it was here was there's a specific way that you take votes from elderly people, nursing homes and that type of thing. And there's specific rules and regulations to it, and the WEC told these places that you don't have to worry about that. Just go ahead
and not only did they tell them not to do it, because that's a directive. They could say, well, we just said it. We don't expect you to actually live by that. But they actually voted on it.
Yeah.
They actually did.
In fact, tens of thousands of votes, it looks like. And they were illegal votes. Every single one of those is a crime.
But, again, it's something that's been going on for a long time, and it's time to stop it.
Yeah. Now,
I'll
play this, and then we'll talk about it later.
I went around, and my jaw dropped when the clerks would tell me, when I would bring up in conversation, well, who runs Wisconsin elections? Like, well, WEC does. I said, well, I'm not. What do you make of the statute here that says that you do? Well, and then it was made clear to me in these informal discussions that WEC did everything it could to impress upon the clerks that it is WEC who calls the shots when it comes to elections. And then, so that's the setup to the punchline of this on at that September meeting, when both the lawyer and I believe it was the chair, Ann Jacobs, who observed and then endorsed the fact, as they saw it, that they don't direct anything, that they merely give to the clerks guidance, which affords no protection to the clerks at all. And then one of the WEC lawyers chimed in and said, and that means that the clerks bear all of the financial and other responsibilities for any litigation that comes from challenges to elections. I thought that was an extraordinarily revealing, publicly available moment.
I'm surprised he's surprised.
Well, yeah, well, but I think what's happening here is WIC is throwing, as soon as these questions are now asked, hey, well, how did people infirmed are voting, and WIC is asked the question, and now the WIC is saying, whoa, it's the clerks. But they had set the clerks up, and now the clerks are and the clerks are really becoming the fall persons within the state, really.
Well, the clerks should know the law.
I agree.
And WEC really is supposed to be just holding them accountable for complying with the law and running clean elections. They don't really have much in the way of authority, I don't think. I think they can kind of tell you you're doing wrong, but I don't know how much strength they have behind
the problem is they're held up as an authority.
Yeah.
People have that question, they call WEC. I mean, I do that. When I had a question about some things about poll workers or election inspectors, they're called, I go to WEC to get the interpretation of the law. Am I right in reading the law? So they are held up that way, and when they give out bad information, then and some of it is crudely bad. I mean, having people elected in these infirmary situations, it was just really bad advice, and it was contrary to law, and that's why in this particular investigation, the officers in charge, the sheriff deputies, the sheriff and a sheriff deputies want WEC charged. I think that's what they're trying to do, is get WEC charged rather than the hospital people that were using WEC advice to commit the crime. In other words, WEC told them it's all right to rob the bank, and so now that the person's gone and robbed the bank, they're trying to say, no, we don't want the bank robber, we want the person that told the bank robber it's okay. So that's kind of the situation that it's in.
All right, I'm going to continue on.
From your investigation, who actually runs the tabulators for the state of Wisconsin? Who's actually the party that's running the tabulators for the state of Wisconsin, these black boxes, as you sometimes refer them to?
Well, if you're asking me like it's a test, I don't know. I don't know.
Is it the clerks or is it the vendors?
Oh. I'm still at a very preliminary, many of my informal discussions with clerks, it seems to me that we are at the mercy of the vendors in terms of understanding how these things work and whether they work as they're advertised.
Vendors that's the
Dominion.
The Dominion, that's the voting machine.
Command Central.
Well, now, does Dominion are they involved statewide, or are they like in different municipalities?
They're pretty much statewide. Pretty much statewide,
but yeah.
Yeah, so the clerks are, you think about this, when most citizens think the clerk is the ultimate authority on the elections.
Well, they should be.
They should be. And statute.
And by law.
By laws, yeah.
Right.
So, but really what's happening here is you've got WIC at one end, who is funneling information, like a guidance, but actually almost pushing. You got to remember, Racine has a fairly large area, but you go to some of these small communities, there may be 500 people in the community, and they probably don't have the expertise, granted, but yet they still have that responsibility to run the election. So, but now you've got these vendors, Dominion and Command Central, and you've got WIC, and now you've got this clerk sitting in the middle. So now when you're talking about irregularities in voting, who are they going to? The clerk. The clerk really is the fall guy in this whole thing. It really needs to be looked at WIC, and it needs to look at Command Central and Dominion, and really start to find out exactly why are we having these problems. People are asking questions, but as soon as the WIC gets asked, they deflect it back to the clerk. And I can guarantee that Command Central will say, well, it's the clerk. And by law, it is the clerk. So it's a catch-22 for those clerks.
It's catch-22, but the way they're approaching it, the way the sheriff is approaching it, is nothing's going to come of it. Is my concern. I mean, we talked about this in the last program about this Project Orange Bottle,
Right.
where they had all the.
I'll tell you what, George. Before we go forward, let me play the rest of this.
Okay, all right, good.
And then let's go to that.
Okay.
Into the Ridgewood Care Center, where illegal voting took place, something made possible by the Wisconsin Elections Commission, as special voting deputies were deemed non-essential workers and thus were not present when these ballots were cast. Now, the sheriff is recommending that 5 of Wisconsin's 6 commissioners be charged with felony misconduct in public office, felony election fraud, and 3 counts of misdemeanor election fraud.
The sheriff is recommending charges against Weck.
Yeah,
Yes.
and these are felony charges. These are not just little misdemeanors. It's a serious situation. When you're affecting the outcome of elections and you're getting the wrong people in there, that's a problem. Now, our concern is what we brought up last time. We had this thing where people were trading pharmaceuticals. I mean, that really affects all our lives. When people in
the
Union
orange
Grove,
bottle thing you
the
were
orange
talking
bottle
about,
thing, yeah. It's like, I mean, I understand it's illegal, but it's certainly not affecting my life. But when they went on that raid, they immediately arrested people and put them in jail.
Big splash in newspapers.
Yeah. And they had no problem with that. Of course, the people go to jail, and then the next Monday or whatever, they get their lawyers and they get out on bond and all that type of stuff. But the point is, they had no qualms about putting them in jail on this for exchanging pharmaceutical drugs illegally. You go over here to something that's really important, and that's illegal voting. That's felonies. When they do that bust, nobody goes to jail. Now here's the thing. But look at it. Suppose they had done it. Suppose they had went and arrested those nurses and people that were illegal, acting illegally, put them in jail. So they spend a couple of days in there while they get a lawyer and get them out. Guess what's happening now? Now we're going to really get an investigation. Now we're really going to start bringing in lawyers, and we're going to start bringing in people, and we're going to get at it. Not like we're doing now, where we're going to talk about it for a while. And then so that's one
Here's
reason.
the thing, George.
If they had made arrests, we would be seeing action. It'd be on the front page, and we would find out what's going on.
What I'm afraid of is
election.
they go in and they arrest the aide who maybe helped somebody fill out the ballot or filled out the ballot and maybe thought, well, I'm doing the right thing, unknowing. I'm not worried about them. They're a low-level criminal. When it came down from WEC, and you got 5 members on this board who voted to do this, to set this situation up, not only in Ridgewood, but now apparently it's happening all over the state, and they're finding this out. Why are we not? Why are they held we can't go and arrest them? I mean, you made the charges, you brought them in.
Well, here, Jim.
Why can't we arrest them?
Do you see what would happen though if they had arrested the nurses and them, the ones that actually committed the crime? Now, immediately, they're saying, well, wait a minute, we were told to do it. So now you're going to get some solid action real fast because these people need a defense, and now you're going to get Weck in there real fast. And you're not going to be able to just sit back and say, well, and blah-de-blah, and we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Right.
It would be like in that drug thing where you're going to get action. You get some people in jail, and you get things moving fast. And yes, there's some nurses, aides, and whatever they were doing the thing that you might say is unfair, but is it unfair? They were the ones that did commit the crime.
Well, they probably did it unknowingly. They probably...
To a certain degree, I think you're probably right.
And that'll get them off the felony charge. I know in another total area where a felony, if you're committing a crime, you must know that it's a crime. All right? Yeah. And if you don't know that it's a crime, that gets you off. But it brings in to the people, and this also happened, it was in taxes, where people were not filing their taxes, and they got off because they thought it was legal. But you know what their defense was? This guy over here told me. So, of course, they go over there and get that guy, and that guy goes to jail.
Yeah.
See? So the point is that the same thing could be happening in this field. The nurses say, but I was told that there was a crime committed, so they say, well, it was the WEC, and now you've got them on the hook.
Well, they even bring in the sheriff said WEC. I mean, he's already got it down to pinpointed 5 members of the WEC, and he's saying, and this whole presentation they put on out at the sheriff's department, which, by the way, we were not able to get into. That is should be the focus of who we're arrested. Yeah, we're going to arrest a guy on the street for selling pharmaceuticals who, grandma's pills got sold to the neighbor. Okay, granted, I get it, not right. But you're right. How much did that affect me? It didn't affect me.
No.
But yet, voting, yeah, it's going to affect a lot of people. So, no, I totally agree. So why...
Well, it certainly has a greater potential to affect a lot of people.
Well, it does.
And that's why the clear light of day has to be shown on this, and the system needs to be cleaned up and made to run the way that it's intended to run.
Right.
Which it hasn't really done for a long,
And you know what?
time.
I don't think that people in these memory units and different things that have... I don't think this has been a big problem because they had voting deputies go in, and I think it was handled. I mean, people have a right to vote. If I'm homebound or institutionally bound, you have a right to vote, and it's a good program. I think it was. Now, was it done purposely? I mean, they brought people. I mean, they had regular folks showing up, DoorDash and everything was ending going in, but the voting deputies couldn't, but DoorDash could. I mean, they've got all that
And this is where it gets a little bit outside the WEC being the only perpetrators, is the fact that they've been going on, they knew for a long time, these special voting deputies, that's SVD, those people are the ones that are supposed to be there to get the voting done. And all of a sudden, in the Trump year, oh no, we're not going to let them in, and now just the nurses can run it. So they must have had some past knowledge that this was not the proper procedure.
Okay, George, but if we're not going to investigate, then I guess it just goes by the wayside.
Well, that's the thing, and back to my point, there was a crime committed. Why don't you do it the same thing you would with the orange bottle? Make some arrests, put some people in jail. Get the fire burning. Let's get at it. And why? And my question to the sheriff and Mike Llewell, who was deputy, why didn't you do it? What was your reasoning for treating?
Well, George,
when you do a drug bust, you arrest people. You do a voting bust, and you don't. Why? What's the difference? Why one people go to jail and the other you say, well, we're going to investigate before putting people in jail. Why? What's the difference?
I literally asked the question, why is Trish Hansen, our district attorney, not filing charges?
You could have stopped when you said, why is Trish Hansen our district attorney? I think that's the real question.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It was said, doesn't want the spotlight, because this will be national spotlight, that you're arresting or charging members of the Wisconsin Election Commission. And she doesn't want to be there. Literally, that was.
I have heard that. I've heard that in another level. I remember there was some corruption going on in a community, like Racine or Oak Creek or whatever it would be, and they didn't want an investigation of their mayor and the people and all the corruption because it would make the community look bad.
Yeah.
There is that perception out there, but that's not the way to go.
Typically, they don't care if it is bad. They don't want anybody to know that it's bad.
That's right.
Outside of the city limits.
Well, they don't want an investigation because then it brings it into the public eye. So they wanted to just lay off the investigation, leave them go because it will make the community look bad. Which is, I'm sorry, that's a nice short-term desire, nice short-term goal, but long-term. You're down the road, you're going to run into a lot more trouble than if you just go ahead and handle it now. And that's the same with Wisconsin and Patricia Hansen and with our electing thing. If we want to get this handled, you go out there and you dig out your dirty laundry and you get it cleaned. You don't just let it sit there because it doesn't look nice if we start to do it now.
Well, I'm not a big fan of dirty laundry out in public, but sometimes it just needs to be done.
It's got to be done. That's right.
It needs to be done.
I agree.
Judge gives order to turn over records. This is a related issue here. This is the open records request that was put in to the city of Racine.
This goes back to March of 2021.
Yeah.
This is hot government.
Hot government.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge now has finally
Now, what
said,
kind of records were being pursued?
these were records. Basically, it was
mostly emails, wasn't it?
Mostly emails, and there were some other
regarding the election.
Regarding CTCL, a lot of it, the Zuckerberg money. It was
okay.
Corey Mason, Tara Coolidge, the clerk, Vicky Selko, who is the assistant to the mayor. Those emails were partially given early on. Well, actually, about August.
Well, it's related because all of this money came in,
Right.
and it influenced how the election was handled,
Yes.
how it was managed.
Exactly.
And that's the very thing that we were just talking about. Is like there was. It's hard to call it criminality. Laws were broken, and that's not good.
Well-
so we want to find out. Well, Hot Government filed the records request. Wanted to find out who said what to whom,
Right.
who was in charge, who was running the show, and what were your motivations, and so on and so forth.
And now that was the one where Vicky Selko first said that she had 60,000,
40,000.
40,000 emails, and
Yeah.
it would take a long time to dig them out and all that type of stuff. Yeah, okay.
And then when they started trickling in, there were only a couple.
Well,
here and
when they found
there.
out if she was doing anything with regards to the election, she was committing crimes. So it
Yeah.
went from 20,000 down to about
200.
200.
Well, our suspicion is that there was some very, very unseemly conversations going on via the email, and that's probably why they don't want to release these records.
Oh, there's probably some. I'm sure there's something here. I mean, why not release it? If
Yeah.
there's nothing. You got nothing to hide. Isn't that the term?
Yeah.
Got nothing to hide. Release them.
Well, if she was dealing with CTCL and dealing
Right.
with the
And all
functioning of
over
the
the
election,
state.
she was committing a crime. She was violating state
Well,
law.
here's the other thing. What is? I guess the discussion's gone to bribery. Is this bribery? Did CTCL bribe these cities to take this money? Because if I'm giving you a grant I'm going to give you the money. You're going to go do what I've suggested. The grant was you suggested to me. You want to build something. I give you the money. It's done. I don't come in. I don't build it for you, but you take care of that money.
Right.
But this time, I give you the money, and not only do I do that, I actually write your programs. I do the work. I basically run the show with my grant money.
It's not much different than a legislator receiving huge campaign finance donations and being given pre-written laws
Right. Exactly.
to submit into the legislation, and we want this is a law that we want. We want this to become law.
And if it
it's
says you don't
corruption.
pass the law, I want my money
corrupts.
back.
Right.
Now
And that's what
now you're
CTCL
really getting into
CTCL asked for their money
sure.
back. I mean,
Yeah.
my God, what is it? So it's a bribe. But anyway, so the judge now has made an order and said, you've got 14 days to turn over these records to Hot Government, Voter Alliance.
Or explain why you're not.
Judge Flancher
Yep.
gave her
Yep.
14 days. Okay.
14
And in
days.
this instance, I'm looking forward to seeing why they can't do it.
Exactly.
Because I don't expect them to.
No.
I think they're going to come back with some bullshit story about
Right.
why it
Well,
can't be
well,
done.
Scott Letney, the great, what do we call him? The
Serial. The serial open records violator.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like a
Hey, it'll be
murderer.
interesting to see if he managed. He'll figure out something. I mean, the guy's a judge, right? He's a municipal
Yeah.
judge someplace.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of experience in flaunting the law, and so he feels like I'll bet. What do you think, Jim? What do you think? What do you
I
give
bet.
it? It comes up in 14 days, it comes up to record.
This is probably violations. These are probably felony violations here.
No, normally
Within-
Jim asks this question,
Yeah.
but I beat you to the drum. what percentages do you give that
you've been planning all week, haven't you?
He'll make it in 14 days.
I got a 10%. He'll make it in 14 days. No,
Doc, what do you say?
I don't think I You know,
You-
10% is probably, it's possible.
they'll throw a
it's
couple
possible that
bulbs
they
out,
might,
yeah.
but I
smell
expect,
this.
even though this has been like better part of a year,
Yeah.
that they could have done it.
Right.
And now it's like, well, 14 days, that's just not enough time.
I'm in your ballpark. I think maybe we get a little dribble, but he won't. 14 days.
You're saying 7.5%?
The serial offender is not going to make
Right.
it.
There's going to be a reason why. Something happened. We got hacked and we can't get them, or whatever. It's
Yeah.
This is where public officials fail, and this is where they say, well, you don't trust the government. Oh, really? Yeah. This is why you don't trust the government.
It wouldn't it be marvelous if I don't know what the crime is on that open records request, but it should be big. It should be along the line of voting. It should
Absolutely.
be bigger than drug dealing because I still am not affected by orange bottle pharmaceuticals being black marketed as much as I am by Scott Letney and Corey Mason withholding records and with these other violations of election laws.
You know
so
what,
I would like to see Scott, setting up bail.
We've all looked at these statutes, though, and I can't for the life of me remember what the punishment is.
Oh, it's
for
minor.
violating.
Minor. It's like I think if they find that they violated the open records, you can pay for the attorney's fees that would cost to get the records.
Is that the total fine?
Or maybe $100. It's nothing.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to say,
Wait a minute, $100 for attorney's fees?
No, $100 fine.
Plus attorney's fees.
Oh,
Pay
okay.
for the attorney's fees.
Yeah,
I know you have to pay for the attorney's fees of the person suing for the record.
Correct.
Right. Yeah,
correct.
I do remember that now that
Yeah.
you mentioned it.
And hopefully, this is an attorney has been hired to do this, so hopefully they get paid. I don't see this coming to an end in 14
Where does
days.
that money come from, anyway, that they have to pay to the attorneys to
Yeah,
fight?
that comes from you. It comes to you and you and you and you.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, who really loses? We lose. Both
We're
ends.
suing
We're
ourselves.
losers. We're just a bunch
We're
of losers.
losers.
Well, I
right.
hope that today, Monday, which as of right now is today, I hope that we're not losers up at the Supreme Court.
Right.
So how do you guys feel about taking a percentage estimate on the Supreme Court decision?
I'll pass on that one. This is not quite as much fun as Scott Letney going to jail. This is a little more serious, and I don't want to bet about the Supreme. These people in the Supreme Court actually agreed to look at this case, which is big.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean
It doesn't mean that they're
yeah.
going to vote for us or against us. But I'm not willing to look at that in a percentage type of wagering.
Well,
thing.
there's a certain amount of awe that's involved.
Well,
with the
there's more
Supreme Court,
respect.
too,
There's
yeah.
more respect for these people than for Scott Letney.
Yeah.
Scott Letney,
They get up to open records? Yeah, I agree there.
Records, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can call it a day on that note. Yeah.
So what I will do, though, I will try to get as much information I can out of that Supreme Court hearing and have it for next week.
Yeah, well, you might get a sense of how that.
Yeah.
Can I just throw in something on
Yeah.
that? Because all the promotion has been, it's a 30-minute hearing from 9:45 to 10:15. Found out just a couple days ago, that's for one side only.
Right, it's an hour.
Both sides get that. Plus, there can be questions and interrogation. This thing may go on to noon, which would be really cool if it went on for 2 hours. Now you're going to get into some interesting discussion about this issue.
Yeah.
I think each side gets like 15 minutes to make a statement and interact with the judges, so it comes out to like a half hour. I think
We're gonna
that.
find out.
I think that's. But yeah, come back and give us.
Well, here, if it's
report
going to
next
go
week.
on to it could be all morning. That it's just our case, which would be super. I'd love to hear that much attention. I'd love to hear the discussion.
He's
Should
an
be real
attention
interesting.
whore. You see that?
It's always been like that.
We all are. You are too. Come back and see us next week. Thanks for being here.